Hi, Kelly. It's Dave. It's the December 31st. It's around 12:30. The sun's out. I'm in Vancouver still, downtown Vancouver. I want to wish you a happy New Year. I wanted to say a few things. So this video is going to actually have two parts to it. One is to talk to you and tell you what's going on, and that's going to lead into talking to President Trump because I want to talk to him today as well. So we're going to do it all in one. We might do two videos. But let's start with you and me. We touched part of the video later, but it's New Year's Eve today, and I had hoped to have been with you for Christmas Day this year. That's the Illuminati around. They're very angry and they're worried about this video, and they should be. Kelly, I wanted to spend Christmas with you. I thought for sure this year that we were going to be together. I miss you a lot. Maybe, I'm not sure why suddenly over the last couple of months there's been a big increase in me thinking of you. I'm not sure if it's because I was hoping that by now I would have found you. Maybe by now as well. I would have thought I would have found you and things would have been resolved and I would be free, and I thought that was all going to happen by Christmas. Also, the violent attack has brought back a lot of things, I think, too. I miss you a lot. I'm concerned. I've always been concerned that something happens to me and you're left without ever us getting together again. That bothers me. So I was hoping that we were going to get together. I thought for sure it was going to happen. They've had a whole year to figure out some way of getting us back together, Kelly, and it really hasn't been much of a priority for them. So it's been a gigantic disappointment. It wasn't just that they couldn't get it together in 2 or 3 weeks. They had a whole damn year to figure this out. And it just wasn't important enough to anyone for our sister and brother to get together for Christmas. I'm sorry. It's really disappointing. Christmas itself for me, how was yours? Or where the hell are you anyway? Christmas for me was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was like a little bit above average. So that was good, considering that I was all alone. And what else happened? What else did happen? Well, it was really bad. It was as violent as you can expect. I was imprisoned falsely again for at least the 10th or 12th time now in my life by the RCMP. They pulled a dirty stunt. They had some transit cops appear on the train, and I had my ticket somewhere. I couldn't find it, and I was just... they've been gang stalking me at such a relentless pace, Kelly, that it's just blow after blow. And I couldn't get the ticket, and so they were bitchy as hell. It was all pre-staged, of course, and that led to them checking my name, which of course brought up the Dawson Creek warrants for court. That was when I fled the death camp by fleeing up 6 hours it took me to climb out of that death valley. And when I reached the top at 4 o'clock in the morning, the RCMP were standing there waiting to arrest me for public mischief. So they decided to be really dirty snakes and use Christmas Eve as the time to point out to me that there were outstanding warrants to appear in court for those bogus charges, and they were going to use the opportunity to throw me in jail again and fuck me really good and hard, pardon the French. But let's be honest here, that's exactly what they did on Christmas Eve. I got fucked really hard by them. I was stuck in jail for about 5 or 6 hours on Christmas Eve, and I missed Christmas Eve Mass. So they got what they wanted, which was just pure hatred and vindictiveness on Christmas Eve. So when I got out of jail, I got to the bus station or the train station, and the train got stopped halfway, and we had to wait outside at 1 o'clock in the morning for a bus for 45 minutes, at which point I got totally frustrated with all these people that were doing skits and loud. So I grabbed a cab and it took $50 to get home, but at least I was in some peace. That was Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day had all kinds of shit and stunts, and they broke my phone, and it was just awful. It was violent and predatory and just horrendous all day and evening. But you know what? On Christmas morning, I thought to myself, Jesus Christ appeared on the planet 2018 years ago, and he's here again, 2018 years. So there's a lot to be thankful for this Christmas. So it changed my mood for the whole day. I did spend Christmas evening trying to find freedom, and like I said, I will give my life to find freedom again. So I went trekking out east of here around Burnaby and Surrey, I guess some places like that, east of here, out towards someplace, towards the Fraser River, because I was hoping that at some point at the Fraser River, freedom would be there and the Canadian Army would be there. Well, gosh golly, Kelly, I was out on this goddamn bridge, pitch black, and thank God, with a couple of feet left to spare, I realized that the bridge didn't go all the way over the river. It kind of stopped. There's this big gap between two arms of this bridge that don't join. So I don't know if that meant anything, but I thought I'm going to hightail my ass back out of here, because landing in the Fraser River in the middle of the dark is not going to be a good idea for me. So I had to come back and cannot find freedom yet. So we're at this point, and this is where you come in, Mr. President. By the way, I hope you had a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. I hope, please pass on. I hope your family, your wife, and your children have a healthy and prosperous New Year, and you do as well. This Christmas, though, is not a very good idea, a good outcome. I bring you up because, of course, on April the 28th, the Department of Homeland Security refused me entry into the United States, put me in a car, and dumped me back in Canada, which we now know because the CIA put out the Kubrick Manual, which is a torture manual, and I can confirm back in August of last year, August or September, I have to check the exact date, I apologize, the first weekend I came back from Guelph, I can confirm that I was told that the CIA was running an operation, and it's been running a large part of this. Part of the personnel and part of the material is from the CIA. I'm not saying anything else, but we are not going to pretend that CIA is not intimately involved in all this. We're not even going there. I will not allow that. So what happened was, I would like to point out that April 28th, the CIA threw me back in here for the sole purpose of torturing and murdering me in this concentration camp, which is really Nazi state Canada. To remind everyone, I was drugged with a date rape drug and kidnapped on June 14th, 2016, on my return from Prince Edward Island to Toronto for a bogus court date. And I was drugged and kidnapped and brought into what had become a Nazi state. And I was not aware of this because the whole province of Prince Edward Island was on lockdown at the time. So they drugged me and kidnapped me to drag me in here and have been torturing me ever since. The situation, of course, is that there is no food, there's no money, there's no bed. I've been homeless now. This is the fourth time they've made me homeless. There's no bed, there's no clothes. And now I'm sleeping every single night outside on concrete all night long in the freezing cold with no clothes. Everyone knows this. I have been talking about this for over a year. And on Christmas Day, everyone had gone. What I found really peculiar is I have been very gracious with Canada and America in many things that I have done in my work. And I know that many, many, many people in Canada are very happy and pleased with me, but it turns out that I am left to starve and freeze in the dark, and I find that very unacceptable. I find it on a humane level unacceptable that anyone would be forced to do that, but this is the world's richest and most powerful people are so full of hate for humans that despite the city having a 90% vacancy rate, thousands of empty apartments and hotels and houses all over the place, condos, These bastards are forcing me to starve and freeze in the dark, outside in the winter, in December, the coldest time of the year. They are denying me any place. I've been to motels, I've been to shelters, I've been to hostels. They all are fully booked, despite nobody living in the city, and I must sleep on the street. They're deliberately doing it so that I end up here. Remember in January of 2015, a reporter from CBC, Greg Ross in Toronto, interviewed me. This was the second time I'd been made homeless because a man had died the night before wearing just a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. He froze to death in January in a bus shelter. They were forewarning me how they were going to murder me. Jason, this goes back to November of 2014 or 2012, because we can identify Jason Williams as calling me at 9:30 on a Saturday night in November. He was homeless and needed a place to stay. This is a whole theme. So we're at the point where I was left on Christmas Eve being imprisoned again for no reason and having nothing to eat, nothing to wear, because the police stole all my clothes in August, remember, in Toronto. And everyone hightailed it out of town and said, fend for yourself, dog eat dog. So Christmas came and went. There was nothing. There wasn't a hello, there wasn't a teeny tiny cookie, there wasn't a loaf of bread, there wasn't a kind word or a Merry Christmas from a single person. Everyone knows. And so where, Donald, you're coming into this is the CIA threw me in here, but yet at Christmas, you all in Washington and Ottawa left and just said bye. You threw me in here, but you left me in the winter at Christmas all by myself. All of you. All of you. Not one of you could take the time or effort to somehow say thanks for being a patriotic Canadian. Thanks for helping us. We're here to help you. We're all in this together. None of that. I find that really unacceptable. I find that a kick in the ass. I find that arrogant and rude and very ungrateful. And I find it heinous. I am sleeping on the street every night. Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? The point is, everyone is benefiting from keeping me in here. I suffer so you folks benefit. So you don't have to deal with the truth. You don't have to account for what you've done. So, Mr. President, I suffer so that you can benefit and not have to deal with this. Not have to deal with your CIA, not have to deal with the Illuminati, not have to deal with the dirt that's all around. So I find that very difficult to swallow because I'm fed up with this. I'm fed up with the goddamn Illuminati and their stupid little tricks and stunts and this constant gang stalking. This Christmas season, over a 1 week period, Stephen Harper stole another $250. So where we're going with this, $250 for me is a lot of money. That happens every month. About $400 to $500 is stolen. I'm constantly under the gun because of this. That means that there's no money for food. So the hunger strike is going to continue, and it's continuing in earnest, and it started a few more days ago. We are not going to eat anything. I am not going to put up with this bullshit from anyone anymore. I'm absolutely tired with all of you at this point, because all of you sat on Christmas and let me be by myself, starving to death with nothing. Not even a goddamn warm bed. This country could not get me a warm bed on Christmas Eve. I just will not accept this from anyone. I'm just so tired of all of you. The hunger strike is going to continue. Mr. President, you sent me back into a Nazi state that was satanic. I resent that greatly, and I resent your government leaving at Christmas, leaving me to suffer the consequences and just skirting any responsibility whatsoever. The CIA sent me back here. You people have to figure out how to get me safely out. I tried to get out several times, and you denied me access, which caused me considerable suffering and pain. I'm sorry to bring this up. It's not a topic that is well received at any time, but it has to be done today because I suffer every day. It has to be addressed. The U.S. government has to address the fact that it committed a crime against humanity against me. It deliberately put me in here knowing I was going to be tortured and likely murdered. And it knew that because the Great Water Apocalypse of May 2016 proved that 35 million Canadians were almost murdered and certainly were made homeless. So there's not a stretch of the imagination to expect me to have been murdered and tortured in here, which is where we are going. So I am not going to stay here and be tortured by anyone. I am not going to surrender to anyone. I'm not going to obey anyone, ever. But I'm not going to stay in here either. So I'm at the point where, because nobody was doing anything, and everybody's content to let me suffer while they don't, I'm at this point where I've got one desperate move left, and that's to starve myself to death. I will starve myself until I get my freedom and my sister back. If I don't get it, then I'll die. So I will get the hell out of here one way or the other, dead or alive. I prefer to be alive. This is clearly not a suicide mission, but you folks won't do anything to help me. I'm starving in here. I have no goddamn clothes. I have nowhere to live. I spend my whole day looking at coffee shops and from one place to another. I have to put up with rudeness beyond control. Zombies all over the place. Why would you put a human being in this place full of zombies? What kind of social interaction am I going to get? That brings up one other point. We're at 16 minutes, but we'll just keep going. We're almost done. I did think today of Glenn Yakula. It's his birthday in December, but I thought of him, because this is New Year's Eve. The last time I spoke to Glenn Yakula or got an email communication that was real, was December 20th, 2015. 15. Glenn lived in Bracebridge, Ontario, which is like a ski kind of community north of Toronto, and he had invited me up on New Year's Day for a couple of days. New Year's Day arrived, I got this weird saccharine sweets New Year's greeting from Glenn by text, which didn't sound like him at 10 o'clock in the morning. I called him once or twice and I texted him. By the end of the day, I still had not received Glenn to confirm that, I was going to come up and what time I was going to arrive. We never ever did talk about what happened. I did mention a few times, what happened to you that New Year's? I didn't end up going eventually. I never heard from him. He invited me up for a couple of days, but I never heard from him on New Year's Day. When I have asked him what has happened with that, he's always just said, I don't remember it. I don't remember the event. Or, I can't remember what happened with that event. It's always been evaded, and I know why, and so I don't push it. What stood out in my mind is Glenn was my last friend that was stolen from me. He was my last social contact, social media contact, work contact, acquaintance, family member, friend. Any interaction with a human being that had any kind of support or friendship or cordiality to it, Glenn Yakula was the last. They went around with Bill C-51, which Stephen Harper shoved through Parliament after he created the false flag of the Ottawa Parliament shootings, which weren't shootings. They were staged to create panic and fear and usher in this anti-terrorism legislation, which was really just a backdoor way of imposing a Nazi state in Canada before they actually imposed it. And this law, before it was actually passed into law, in the case of my sister, this was the case, before it was passed into law, these people were using it to threaten Canadians that if they didn't obey, they were going to be thrown in jail for 5 years. Under this, the purpose was to isolate me completely, take away all social, financial, moral, emotional support of any kind, deny a social animal of all social contact. At this point, I have not had any contact with anyone since Glenn. I did with Daryl Robert Dixon when I was out in Prince Edward Island, but that was so strained right from the very beginning. It wasn't true friendship, communication free. What I'm saying is for 2 years I have been alone. Are you guys aware of that? I have not spoken to anyone in 2 years. I speak to the shopkeepers and I speak to the people at Starbucks, but I haven't spoken to a friend or a lover or a family member or an acquaintance or a work colleague or anyone. I never go anywhere with anyone. I am alone all the time. That is what they are doing to me, to torture me and drive me to such despair I commit suicide and end my life. That is what the world's richest and most powerful people are thinking of doing with all of us. If you say anything that they don't like, as you see, they will isolate you, they will starve you, they will take away your clothing, they will force you to sleep on the street in the middle of the winter and shiver until your lungs are full of pneumonia and you gasp your last breath and die. That's what they're doing with me. That's what they foreshadowed with the CBC interview with Greg Ross, another skit, which I wasn't aware of at the time, in January of 2015. They were telling me this is how we are going to murder you. So, Mr. President, given that, and given that the CIA has thrown me in here, that is why I'm taking the extraordinary step of demanding that your office call me to set up an appointment time to speak with you directly, no one else. Until that happens, I will not stop the hunger strike. I have been abused and violated so many times, I refuse to allow it to continue anymore. And if that requires me demanding a conversation with you, then that's what will happen. I have already stated that. I will not be eating until we have a conversation. You are the president. You have to account for the fact that the United States government's gang stalked me 6,000 miles across Canada, hoping to torture and murder me. These are serious things. That's why I'm going straight to you. I also need to go to you because if I don't go to you, Mr. President, everyone else will get away with whatever they can. But if I have your ear, they're going to be a little more careful how much they try to pull over me, because I know there's going to be a lot of snow flying around with Where Is My Canada. There's a lot of lying going to be going around. There's already been extensive amounts of evidence tampering and theft. So I can see the dirt roaring down the hill for this one. So we're going to be prepared. So I need to have direct contact with you, or else people are not going to be treating me very well. Look how they treated me at Christmas. Hey, Kelly, I would love to see you again. Maybe, Mr. President, you can facilitate some sort of reunification between my sister and me. It's been 3.5 years, and you have family, and you have a beautiful family of your own, sons and daughters, and I'm sure you love to see them at days like Christmas and all family events. Brothers and sisters have a bond that's unique that no other pair of humans have. It's very unique, and I was robbed that. And Mr. President, I was sad. You made me sad, a lot of you. I was denied the opportunity to have Christmas with Kelly this year. And nobody addressed it, nobody mentioned it, nobody acknowledged it, and nobody explained why. Nobody explained why, over the course of 1 year, nobody in America or Canada could facilitate Where's My Canada getting his sister back. Over a whole year, no one could figure that one out. I find that hard to understand, and I find the fact that I have been neglected so much. It's difficult to accept it, and I'm getting resentful of it. I'm finding that the treatment that I'm getting is as if I killed 100,000 Canadian women, as opposed to what I actually really did. The treatment I'm getting is outrageously despicable and inhumane and barbaric. I would not put any human outside with no clothes to sleep on Christmas Eve. Kelly, it was great talking to you. Have a happy New Year. I don't know when we're going to get together. I have a few tricks up my sleeve. So I will try to get to you sometime. I don't know where you are. But hey, I've traveled 6,000 miles. What's another couple of thousand trying to narrow you down, right? It's like, where's Waldo? I miss you. I wish some people had a little bit more compassion this year. And I wish we could have seen each other and you know, I wish, and you wish too. It's cruel and barbaric and inhumane to separate a brother and a sister. And I'm angry at them for hurting you because you have